Welcome back to Action 2 News at 6. Backers of former President Donald Trump filed a petition today to recall Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Vos from office. The petition cites Vos's opposition to Trump and not moving forward with impeaching Wisconsin's top elections official, Megan Wolf. Filers have until March 11th to submit more than 6,800 signatures from voters in Vos's district to trigger a recall election. Most of the recall effort comes from the same people who tried to oust him from the 2022 primary election. In a statement, he says, in part quoting now, "The effort today is not surprising since the people involved cannot seem to get over any election in which their preferred candidate doesn't win. This recall is a waste of time, resources, and effort."